Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Represent, our virtual event series centred around learning, support and community. Over the course of the next 4 weeks, we're focused on helping you create an amazing application, learn how to champion your potential and find a place to belong. Here at NatWest Group, we are passionate about helping people, families and businesses to thrive, and that's exactly what we're here to do. We want to encourage quality applications from a diverse group of students to our graduate jobs and internships, because we know that being diverse and inclusive helps our customers and colleagues achieve their goals and thrive. My name's Kirsten Kinloch and I work in the Early Careers marketing team, and I'll be facilitating today's event. We also have a great panel of graduates, current and previous, to share their advice today with you. We have Kamran Hussain, a 2020 graduate who is heading into his second year of our Change and Business Solutions programme. Jack Spear, another 2020 graduate on our Software Engineering programme. And Zinang Dangeta, who is a seasoned pro as he has recently completed his graduate programme and is now working as a data scientist. They will all introduce themselves later when we get into the panel discussion. Today, on our very first session of the series, we're focusing on helping you match your skills to our programmes. We know that choosing a business area that's the right fit for you can be challenging, especially when you apply for one programme. We want you to find where your strengths lie and where you could truly add value. So let us help you navigate these decisions and give you some starting points to guide you. We're lucky enough today to be getting insider knowledge as we've got current and previous graduates who are going to be here sharing their stories and advice with you. We'll be running a conversational style panel with our graduates, and you'll get the chance at the end to ask your own questions too. But first, to warm us up a little bit, we would like to hear from you. So we have a poll question that will come up on your screen just now. So who knows exactly what they want to do when they finish university? And you'll have about 20, 30 seconds to complete this, if you can. So just vote on your screen at the moment. And if we're looking at a good participation rate, I think we will close the poll there. And let's have a look at our responses. Perfect. So it looks like the majority, so 68%, say that they have an idea of what they want to do, but they want to explore all options. Followed by somebody that knows exactly what they want to do. So 21%, 6 people, pretty good going. And then choice 3, only 3 people saying they have no idea what they want to do, but trying to figure that out. So definitely a bit of a mixture. Some people with an idea perhaps of the area that they want to go into, but still open to ideas. Perfect. Cool. So over the course of the next 4 weeks, we will give you a really good picture of life here at NatWest Group. There's also a whole host of information on our website if you want to delve further into this, and you can go to jobs.natwestgroup.com to find out more. If you have a clear idea of where you want to start your career, then we'll likely have a programme for you. We don't ask for a specific degree for any of our programmes. Your interests, your ambitions, your behaviours and your skills should be key to your decision, not just your subject of study. And we'll hear more from our grads on how you can align these when choosing the right role, as well as the support you'll receive when you join us to fill in any gaps. We don't expect you to be an expert in our business or in the technical details of a role, and we'll teach you that. What we do expect, though, for you is to have a passion and a keen desire to learn and shape the way that the business does things to make it better for our customers and colleagues. There are 17 different programs you can choose from. So there's bound to be something out there that suits your skills, interests, and career aspirations. But the question is, where do you start? We've put together some pointers for you to keep in mind when researching our programs or any other programs on offer outside of NatWest Group. So here's some tips then for matching skills. Firstly, do your research. Read over the job advert and the programme information on our website and in our online brochure. Watch our graduate videos on our website to hear more about the roles firsthand from people who have gone through them. Secondly, network to find out more. Reach out to a graduate or a NatWest Group colleague working in any of the business areas that you're interested in on LinkedIn to ask them more about their role, what they do and what skills they think are most important for their role. See if these match with your own. Thirdly, reflect on what drives you as a person. Write down the things that you're passionate about in your studies, your hobbies, and your personal life. Are there any trends of things that you enjoy doing, or perhaps any subjects that you excelled at? What sorts of activities make you lose track of time when you're doing them? Think about how you approach problems, your preferred working style, and how you prefer to work with others. See if any of the programs that we've put down see if any of the programs that we have match what you've put down. For example, if you approach a task by following methodical steps and approaching every perspective, then you might consider our finance, risk, audit, or change of business solutions pathways. If you get really excited about new technologies, then our software engineering or data and analytics pathway could be the right fit. When you work with others and collaborate, if you think about understanding different backgrounds, perspectives, and having the right network or connections is key, then why not look at our customer solutions and relationship management pathways? But don't just take my word from it. Here are some more tips and advice from our graduates who were in your shoes not long ago. So now it's time to meet our wonderful panel for today. Kamran, over to you first, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Kirsten, and good morning, everyone. Hope it's all going well so far this morning. So yeah, just to give a brief introduction to myself. So my name is Kamran Hussain. I'm based in Manchester area myself. So for my undergraduate degree, I went to, as Kirsten mentioned, the University of Manchester, where I studied law and criminology. Always thought I would be studying and going towards a legal career. And then a U-turn happened once I entered that sector. I realised that it was not the career that I wanted to go for, but it taught me a lot. So then I took some years out and I worked a couple little part-time roles before applying for my internship. Well, not my internship. My internship was with Apple, but that was with the University of, the Manchester Metropolitan University. And over there, I did my master's degree in business management, graduating in 2017. I then went on to work as a business specialist for a bit for a really big company, Apple in Manchester. And then from there, I decided to apply for the Change in Business Solutions graduate scheme. So the graduate program is rotational based, which means that you get to do 4 rotations or placements, as they call it, in different areas of the business. I'm currently on my second placement, going into my third one. So my first one has been in market development, which is a payments area. So that's to do with your purchasing. So when you go to a shop, Asda, Sainsbury's, anything like that, you do your contactless payments, and the sort of background, anything that goes on in the background between that payment, all the banks acquire and look after that. So that's the sort of area that I was working in my first payment, in my first rotation. The second one that I've been on recently has been innovation. So that's more of a creative aspect. It's looking at how we can improve business functional areas within the bank. So it's been really exciting speaking to third parties, different people from outside the organisation. So it's really exciting, that as well. And my next one is digital sales and service. So that's within our retail bank. So our bank is split up into commercial and retail. So commercial, of course, is for our big customers. Retail is more for our customers on a daily basis, yourself and myself included within that, and how we can just make the process better for them. And then also I'm a big advocate for diversity and inclusion, and that's also a big thing that we do here at NatWest as well, which is something that I'm really proud of that we can bring in. Something that's been a part of me for a very long time as well growing up, and I'm actively involved in that as well. So yeah, just a little bit about myself there. I appreciate that, Kirsten, and I'll move on to whoever's next.
Thank you very much, Kamran. Really interesting to hear a wee bit about your background and running through your rotations there, and also hearing about some of your passions, which I'm sure we will dive into a little bit further as we come to our questions. Cool. We will move to Jack next, if you want to introduce yourself briefly.
Thanks, Kirsten. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the start of your application journey at NatWest. My name's Jack. I am 25 and I am from Edinburgh. And I'm actually based here right now as well on the software engineering graduate program, as you heard from Kirsten. I graduated a wee while ago now. I graduated in 2019, so before the world went crazy with COVID. And yeah, I've had a fantastic time here at NatWest. We'll talk a lot more later, but software engineering was not something I studied at university. It was a passion that I had otherwise. The NatWest graduate program, as Kirsten mentioned, one of the great things about it is they don't require specific degrees for different disciplines. And that meant for something like software engineering, I've been given a huge amount of support and resources and learning opportunities that I wouldn't really have found anywhere else. Otherwise, I really hope you all have a good day listening to us today, and I'll pass back to Kirsten for now, and she can move on.
Fab, thank you very much, Jack. And yeah, we'll go into a little bit more because you do have an interesting background, I guess, from a non-traditional route into software engineering. So really interesting to hear a little bit about that. And then last but not least, we have Zanang, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Kirsten. Morning, everyone. My name is Zanang. I'm based in Edinburgh, and I studied chemical engineering at uni. Very different to the program that I enrolled on, which was the technology grad scheme. But I did kind of decide towards the end of my degree that I enjoyed more of the digital aspects of my course and things like the bits of programming and modeling that we got to do. And I developed a keen interest in like new technologies. So that's kind of what attracted me to apply for the tech grad scheme. My journey in the bank started in 2019. So the technology grad scheme is now the software engineering grad scheme. It's changed, but I do think they're very similar. And yeah, my first placement was in tech transformation. So back then, the bank had thousands and thousands of apps that we had, and not all of them were being maximized and used as much as they should have been. So we were simplifying the network of applications and kind of monitoring the decommissioning process. Second placement was in the Cora Future Initiatives team. So you guys might have heard of Cora before, actually. It's the bank's chatbot that can be accessed via the application. So the NatWest app or the web pages. And basically, if you have a query or you need support, you can chat because it uses AI. So I worked in that team. We developed a lot of the new features and release changes that were added onto it. And then my most recent placement was in financial modeling in the credit cards team. So we dealt with sort of tracking the performance of each of our credit cards products and coming up with like a new sort of marketing strategy for onboarding new customers. So as you've heard, I've had a very varied and exciting journey in the bank. And I'm sure that would be the kind of journey you guys would have as well. So yeah, that's my story.
Fab. Thank you, Sanang. Sounds like you've been in some really interesting rotations so far. I think the Cora one is always quite an exciting story to tell and kind of be involved with. And thank you as well for giving us that insight into why you kind of lean towards applying for the technology program. I guess on that note of thinking about applying to different programs, Cameron, I'm going to ask you a question, and it is, did you know exactly what program you wanted to apply to with us?
Yeah, so with the programs, for myself, it was a situation as to having a look on the NatWest Careers website initially and examining the different sort of programs that were available. So with my background and with my sort of expertise, I was leaning more towards either like a commercial or a change in business solutions orientated program itself anyway. And the reason for that was because within my previous sort of, my university studies and my career experiences, a lot of what I did was very business focused and very sort of, analytical and report writing, the work that I was doing. So for that reason, I felt like it was right for me to apply for something that incorporated the work that I had already done. So for myself, it made, when I looked onto the NatWest Careers website, I had a look at the commercial banking graduate scheme and the change in business solutions graduate program. And then when I started to have a look at them in depth, I saw that the commercial one had a lot of, forefront and face value sort of work where I was working directly with people. There was a lot of communication involved, things that as such. And then the change in business solution one was more about transforming an organization, making it future proof, taking it beyond that digital era that we're going towards. And for me, that was a really big sort of tick in the box, so to speak, because it was what I was really passionate about. Within my internship, I was helping a lot of small businesses already as it was to progress them further, especially with the pandemic and things like that. So, because of that, I really sort of found interest in change and business solutions. And then I began to sort of apply and look at my past work experience, like I said, what I had studied at university, things like that. And then it all began to align, and it just makes sense and clicked all of a sudden for me with my experiences and what I'd done to apply for the Change in Business Solutions one, which helped me a lot as well, because I was finding it great difficulty to filter. But then when you take into account your experiences, extracurricular, education, work, all these variety of different factors, you begin to realize what your own passions are. And then your passions, when you think back to them yourself, you can see them aligned to certain criteria on the Change of Business Solutions program, for example, or the commercial one or the data one. And for me, myself, when I was thinking back on all these experiences, a lot of them aligned, as I mentioned, to the Change of Business one. So then that really allowed me to choose that program out of them all. So I'd say really reflecting back on my experiences, my background, and what I'm passionate about, allowed me to choose the Change of Business Solutions graduate program, Kirsten.
Yeah, really interesting methodology as well. And I think reflects a little bit of what we were saying before of trying to kind of look at all of your background as well as going into more detail on the website. And interesting that you were weighing up the two options there. So I'm sure there might be people listening to the call that maybe have whittled it down to two. So good to hear how you approached it. And Zanang, then, thinking about your approach, cast your mind back to when you were applying for graduate roles. Did you apply to a whole load of different graduate programs, or were you quite specific in what you were looking for in your approach?
I was quite specific. I was kind of open to staying in chemical engineering, but I had also done a year-long placement in another technology role elsewhere. That kind of kickstarted my interest. So those were kind of things that helped me decide what I wanted to do. It's always best that you know beforehand, because then you can be purposeful and selective with your approach. And you can then compare and contrast what programs kind of most fit what you're looking for. And that kind of gives you a funnel and helps you narrow down where you want to apply.
Cool. So I guess your approach was, fairly specific. You'd kind of narrowed down what you were looking to do and then just applied to really specific companies. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But a bit more about kind of what went on in my head in deciding. So it was a big reflection exercise, as you mentioned earlier, Kirsten. I reflected on like the classes that I took at uni, and read through the syllabus and sort of tried to pick out which modules excited me the most, which ones I did the best at as well, and then tried to kind of find grad schemes that would enable me to play to both of those, like what I'm good at and what I enjoy. And as I mentioned earlier, I quite liked the digital aspects of my degree, and I was quite good at the coding bits as well. So I thought that lended itself well towards a technology or software engineering graduate scheme.
Brilliant. A very methodical approach, I guess, is maybe also why you geared towards the software engineering program. So definitely see that it suited your strengths. Perfect. Thinking now then, I guess, going back to the very start of your degree, Jack, a question to you. When you started your degree, did you think that you would be doing the work that you do now?
Absolutely not. I don't think I actually knew what software engineering was when I was 18. Like both Cameron and Zanang, I studied something different to what I do now. When I first went to university, I was convinced I wanted to build spacecraft. And to that end, I studied aeronautical engineering. But I found out quite quickly I didn't actually like aeronautical engineering that much. The maths was just a bit too much for me. So I then made a jump. I followed sort of a hunch that I had that I quite enjoyed, maybe more electrical side of things. I jumped into mechanical and electrical engineering, and that's what I graduated in. But I graduated in it, and I'd done an internship with an energy company, which was also my ambition for a while, was to work in the energy sector, particularly renewables. And I found I didn't actually find the work that fulfilling and interesting. So again, I kind of latched on to something I'd experienced through my other internship, that I'd had slight exposure to working with code and coding to solve problems, and I'd had a bit of it in my degree, just like Zanang had. And I kind of just went on a hunch that, well, maybe this might be the thing for me. I'll give it a go. And I looked around. I looked for companies that would consider hiring someone software engineering without a computer science degree. And NatWest stood out because not only were they open to hiring someone like me, but they also were going to provide 4 months of specific bootcamp training before you even go on to a placement. So when I started a year ago, I didn't actually begin work in my first placement at NatWest until January. And those 4 months was just dedicated just to kind of upskilling me and my peers towards working as a software engineer in NatWest. And when I look around at the other people in the software engineering program, I'd say over half of them did not study software engineering or computer science university. And to be honest, all of them are incredibly competent and sort of good at delivering value for the bank already, despite this lack of technical background.
Really interesting insight there that over half haven't studied something related to software engineering. So it just gives you, I guess, a bit of insight into who else is on the graduate programme. So thank you, Jack. Cameron, a question for you now. Thinking about transferable skills, I guess, that maybe you took from your degree or maybe your extracurricular activities, do you think any of these have helped you in your programme?
Sure, yeah. I would say 100%. A lot of the skills that I learned at university and even in college and high school, if I'm honest, a lot of what I had learned there is what's made me today and what's allowed me to, become confident in my interview skills. I'd say especially like what's at university, things like doing a dissertation, things like doing presentations, things like, networking with not only just peers, but also people from other organizations that come for career events or career fairs. All of these events and these sort of opportunities really allowed me to just build upon my analytical, organizational, time management, communication, project management. All of these different skills there that I've mentioned were all vital for me when I was doing my dissertation or working in a group for a presentation or doing my own individual report or going to speak to my my academic advisor at university about certain things. Having the opportunity to do that then allowed me to, when I came to applying for graduate programs, going to assessment centers, going to interviews, I really put it into practice then, because I saw that the ability for me to practice this at university amongst my peers and amongst senior people that you have to adapt your communication and the way you're speaking to, it really gave me that practice. So then you feel confident and comfortable to apply that in an assessment center or in a graduate, when you go and speak to your peers or anything as such. So I'd say communication, especially analytical, project management and time management as well. If I hadn't practiced them through the various, projects and opportunities at university, then, I wouldn't feel as confident coming into the graduate program. But because you go to university and it gives you so much opportunity to practice these things when you come for a graduate program, and especially at NatWest anyway, there's so much opportunity to, be yourself and really reflect and grow and gain feedback as such. You never feel like you're getting left behind, or you never feel like someone's got an edge over you. Everyone's always on a level playing field, and everyone's so willing to support you as well. And I just feel as though I've grown so much from, my university days to where I am now. And that's just, applause for the sort of communication skills that I've developed there. So definitely a lot of what you do at university, both education-wise, project-wise, you'll gain so much potential when you move forwards as well, because that's like your foundation. And when you go into a grad program, it just exceeds it so much more, and you start to develop so much more significantly. So there's a lot of transferable skills there that I'd say, yeah, definitely I've taken on board.
Absolutely, Cameron. And I think people possibly even forget what a great achievement it is going to university and remembering that the kind of resources that you have at your fingertips at university and speaking to your career service, etc. Definitely a good place and a safe space, as you say, to practice for assessment centres, etc. Yeah, definitely good advice there. If we think then, although you can get an awful lot of experience from your university degree, Jack, maybe a question for you. Outside of your degree, were there anything, or what are some of the things that maybe you think might have helped you to stand out in your application and interviews?
Thanks, Kirsten. Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I know a lot of people, people going to assessment centres, interviews for different jobs, sometimes feel that they really have to find an example for everything that the interviewer is looking for inside their degree. But when it comes to interviewing at a company like NatWest, where the focus really is on kind of your core critical people capabilities, so like how well connected you are to people around you, you can almost draw on anything in life, because in reality, the core skills that NatWest is looking for are the things that sort of define you and how you interact with the world generally. So I'd say don't be afraid to branch out. A conflict resolution question doesn't necessarily need to be an example of a group project you worked in at uni. It could come from a part-time job, it could come from interactions with friends or family. I think just really sort of cast around, have a think, because NatWest, by not requiring a specific degree, they're really opening up you to bring in outside experience, like we've heard from Cameron as well, about other things you do in order to sort of make yourself stand out at an interview.
Fab, thanks, Jack. And putting you on the spot here, can you remember anything that you used at interview that was outside of your degree?
Oh God, you really asked me to remember now, especially after the time warp that was 2020. It's kind of all a blur. To be honest, I think the main things I drew on, where I didn't really talk about my degree much at all, a lot of the stuff was kind of drawn on. I worked a variety of summer jobs over Bruce University, and all of them, even though they were not traditional professional office jobs, you could always find the same sort of core thing, governance, interaction between people, how you plan things, how you deal with criticism. All these things are so important, and I'm sure all of you, just thinking back to just outside your university life, you'll be able to find examples of situations like that.
Perfect, thanks, Jack. Good answer on the spot there.
Kirsty, can I add one?
Oh, yeah.
Can I add one little bit to that, if that's okay? Just one quick thing from me as well. Big thing from me that helped me outside of degree was every uni has a ambassador scheme, so like a student ambassador scheme, and I was really big part of that for whilst I was at university. It really helped me to come outside of my comfort zone, really like work with teachers, pupils, parents, everyone from different walks of life, and every university has that as well. So if I was to vouch or say anything to definitely take across for experience outside of your degree, I'd say if you got the opportunity to sign up as a student ambassador for your university and get involved in that, then that really helps as well, like moving forward. I just wanted to mention that.
No, that's a brilliant practical tip as well. Thank you, Cameron. Yeah, absolutely. Positions of responsibility kind of in any sense are definitely often a really brilliant thing to draw upon in interviews. Perfect. I'm going to come to our final question, and then we are going to move across to our Q&A with the audience. And our final question is going to go to Zanang. And it is an all-encompassing question. What advice would you give to somebody who isn't sure of what program to apply for?
I would think about your skills. So, there's been talk about transferable skills. Think about the various projects or dissertations you've done, assignments you've done. Did you take on any specialism? Like, did people in the group come to you to learn about anything? Was there anything that you particularly enjoyed? So for me, I thought about, like a specialized example. So when you're designing a chemical plant, you've got people to satisfy. You've got the companies that want to buy whatever chemical you're producing. They ask for a certain purity. They ask for a certain quantity as well. And all these things kind of play into how you would design the plant. And you have to understand why all that matters. When I came to the bank, I learned that requirements analysis in software engineering is quite important, because you don't want to just build an app that nobody needs. You need to build an app that is solving a specific problem that caters to the people that have asked for it. So that's kind of requirements analysis. I kind of went through different things like that from my course and sort of matched them to what was being kind of asked for in the software engineering program. So that was my thought process for that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Zanang. And again, some practical tips there to align yourself to different programs, which I think is a useful takeaway. Perfect. So now we want to open it up to questions from our audience, and we would encourage you to use the raise hand function on Zoom, or you can also use that Q&A button. Definitely good practice for virtual assessment centres and events. If you do want to ask us a question, then you can put your video on. But if you don't feel comfortable, of course, you can use that Q&A box. And I can see we already have actually a couple of questions. So I'm going to start us off there, and then we'll come around to see if there's any raised hands. So to kick us off, we have a question from Akash. Thank you very much. Our brave first volunteer with a question. And the question is, what technical and non-technical skills are typically required for a technology graduate scheme? So I guess in this one, given that we have Jack may be currently on our software engineering program, which is our newer technology program. I'm going to put this question to you, Jack. So technical, non-technical skills required for your program.
Okay, sure. Perfect. Thank you, Kirsten. I think we talked about a couple of times today how you don't need a specific degree to study a specific program at NatWest. And that kind of applies as well in terms of technology for technological based grad schemes, whether it's software engineering or let's say data analytics. But while no specific degree is required, I think what the interviewers will be looking for is a demonstration you're passionate about technology. You have maybe extracurricular interest related to technology, or indeed if you study a degree at university that is technology based, they want to hear about how just sort of the way you interact with technology and how that kind of impacts your life, and also just the way you think about it, how you'd approach problem solving. But I'm guessing digressing a little, I guess ultimately, don't worry about specific skills. You're not at an assessment centre, it's incredible, or video interviews, it's general stuff based on your experiences at university as a whole. No one's going to be asking you, do you know C++ at an assessment centre? It's not going to happen. It's all going to be a lot more general. They want to help you. They want to kind of find that. They want to explore your passions and interests. So I'd say focus more on building up sort of your traditional interview techniques, where it's based on like STAR or otherwise, and just go in confident, that knowing that you're not about to be tripped up by somebody at any point.
Couldn't have answered it better myself, Jack. Thank you very much. You've hit the nail on the head. We don't need any technical skills to apply for any of our programs, as you've just said, Jack. Definitely an interest, obviously, in passion in technology would take you far, I reckon, for the software engineering program, but officially on paper, nothing technical like C++, as you say. On that same note, then, we've had a question from Jessica. Thank you, Jessica. And we've talked then about kind of training for software engineering program, the support that's there to kind of get you up to, once you get onto the program with your technical skills. Kamran, a question to you. Is this the same for change in business solutions or commercial banking? And can you maybe run us through a little bit about your induction and support that you received on your program, please?
Sure, yeah. So with changing business solutions, as it's not really much of a technical program in that sense, I wouldn't say that we have specific training as such. But what we do have is a lot of support and guidance, of course, when it comes to joining your placement. So for myself, even myself, when I joined the grad program last September, I remember coming into the program and really feeling, anxious and nervous about, going into a large organization such as a bank. We don't know different business function areas where I'm going into. I hadn't heard of market development before, but as soon as I entered the team, so initially it's good for me to mention that, with the pandemic and everything, we weren't able to go to Gogarburn, where we would normally have our induction up in Scotland. So we had that virtually, which was a good way to just sort of have an icebreaker and get to know all the fellow grads that were joining on the scheme with us in that year. So that was a really nice way to, break the ice and just slowly start to feel comfortable with the organisation. And with that being said, when I moved into my first team originally, a lot of the support that you get, so you get a graduate coach and you get a placement manager and you get a graduate buddy as well. So these three people are really key to helping you succeed, especially when you begin in the initial months on the graduate program. Your graduate buddy is really good for you to be there to ask any informal questions to. If you've got any worries or concerns, they've been in the same shoes as yourself a year before you, so they can really give you some honest and real advice, which helped me a lot because, to them and to anyone really, like no question is a stupid question. And then when I went into my sort of placement, I had that same sort of mindset that I wanted to ask any question, no matter, how massive or very basic it was. And asking questions is really what got me to, really understand how to do my job and how to do the procedures and how to use certain programs. And, there was a lot of support. Everyone in the bank is willing to give you that time as well. So although there's no specific training aligned or assigned for you, there are, especially your placement manager and people who's in your team, everyone's so willing to give you their time. And especially if you put time into their diary, people are willing to take that time to just, whether it's to explain a report to you, whether it's to explain a procedure to you, whether it's to explain how to do a certain thing, if that's through a screen share. So the beauty of working from home through Skype or Teams is that we get to use screen share. So with screen share, people can, it's the equivalent of having your manager sat right next to you. And for me, that was a really big plus, because if you like myself anyway, I learned from observing and, seeing someone do something and then practicing it myself and doing it a few times. And then that helps me to learn how to do it. And for me, a big worry was not having someone next to me inside of an office that I'm so used to with all my previous work experiences with university. Like, it was a new sort of area for me. But coming into the organization and having that support from my placement manager, especially through screen share and constantly, having to phone them whenever, I needed anything, or, they would drop everything for me and come to me. So as I mentioned, even though there's not specific training, there is a lot of support and guidance. So whether your role requires training or not, it's always clear from the forefront. You know exactly what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be studying, what you're going to be training, and you'll never be left in the unknown or not feeling like you're knowing what you're doing, because there's always someone there to answer a question or, to clarify things for you. There's a lot of support, whether that's from early careers or to your placement manager. There's a lot of support, and, that's helped me quite a lot, and it's helped me to really, become experienced in what I'm doing now as well. So I would definitely say that there's a lot of training involved there. Sorry for the long
Thank you very much. No, it was a really comprehensive overview. Thank you very much, Cameron. And going into, as you say, graduate buddies and coaches, placement managers, your induction, and also working towards that professional qualification as well. So lots of support available on each programme, although I guess it will look slightly different for everybody. So we did have a question about landing a spot in the graduate programme, which was from Virgilio, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, with not much work experience. So I hope we've covered that already in terms of kind of what we're looking for and your skills and how to match yourself up to that. And then a question kind of there as well with Shruti around how many graduates we're looking to hire in 2020. So our cohort is normally about 250 graduates, and a number of them are interns, was another question. And that number does vary each year, but it might be kind of 100 plus people who convert from the internship program through to the graduate program. So definitely a good mixture of new positions available, and then also converting some of the interns who are on our program in their penultimate year. There are a couple of different questions, I guess, coming through in the Q&A, which is brilliant. Questions around finance roles and kind of details about that. So I'd say one to have a look at there is have a look at our brochure. That goes into loads of depth around kind of our finance programs, what you could expect, what we're looking for, details of locations, etc. So have a look at our website, and you'll be able to find our brochure and have a wee read through that. I'd say is the best port of call initially. I'm trying to think. Next questions. Maybe one, Zanang, I'll get to come to you around kind of software engineering side of things. A question around the different tech stack that the software engineers get to work on. Any insight that you can share on that question?
Yeah, that largely depends on what team you're in. So I know some of the teams that do more of the front end stuff, like building user interfaces, they'll use stuff like React, which is like a framework that uses JavaScript to write the code, to kind of build elements and manipulate them on a screen. My data science role requires a lot of Python, and we host all of our code in like a cloud environment on AWS. And the database where we store all the data, that's in AWS Athena. So my experience has been very different in across teams, and you would get sort of trained up and you get a kind of opportunity to practice using whatever tech stack is required of you.
I'll just jump in there as well to provide because I think you touched on it, Zhang, but there's so much variety in the bank. With such a huge company like we are, you can probably find every tech stack imaginable is used somewhere in the bank. But from my experience, a large majority of the back end, at least, is focused around the Java Spring Boot ecosystem. And then probably moving on to, like React, like Zhang mentioned, for the front end. But in terms of database as well, we use everything from MongoDB to Kix to pretty much everything you can conceive of. So I wouldn't get caught up about what you know already, or even necessarily if you have a strong desire to work somewhere in particular tech stack, because your placement could take you really anywhere. And the tech stack I work in right now, which is data power technology, I hadn't even heard of before I was assigned it. But after now 9 months in it, I feel pretty confident using it. And that will probably be your experience as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jack. Cool. So one final question that I'm just going to answer on the spot, which is from Numa. Hopefully, again, I'm saying that right. And it is, can you apply to more than one scheme? And the answer is no. You can only apply to one graduate program. So definitely, hopefully, you've got some tips from today's session around how to, I guess, specify your skill set and figure out which program is the best for you to apply, because it is a big decision. So no, only one program. Brilliant. So that, unfortunately, is it for today's session. And we really hope that you found it valuable and it's given you some food for thought to consider in the types of roles that you think that you might thrive in. We've got Represent events running over the next 4 weeks, and we would encourage you to come to as many as you can to get the most out of the series. We'd also encourage you to go and have a look at our programs on our website today to start thinking about what you're interested in. A couple of questions coming through around when will applications open, and they aren't open just yet, but they will be opening on Monday. So keep an eye out on our website for that. One final word of advice from us is to use sessions like today to prepare yourself to apply early. We don't have any closing dates on our programs this year, which means that they will close once we have enough applications to fill our assessment centres. So we strongly encourage you to apply as soon as you can, or you may miss out. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming along to our first Represent series, first event of our Represent series, and good luck for any applications that you will be making over the coming weeks.